Hey everyone, and welcome to our question of the day. Today we are going to talk about where we get to go and what it looks like when we are in port, in terms of being this kind of weird middle ground where we're not crew but we're also not passengers. So what that looks like for getting off the ship, having to come back, all that jazz. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about would be for if you're applying to work on a ship, figure out why you want to go work on the ship. And if it is for travel, then really look at where the different cruise lines are going to. If you're looking to see the world, make sure that you're going to work for a cruise line that lets you see the world, that actually goes around the world. So I'm really lucky. When I was applying for ships, I was hired by a cruise line that does go around the world. They have world cruises, different grand voyages, lots of like month-long itineraries. They kind of go to some interesting places. You get to actually see the world. They don't have they have a couple 4-day itineraries throughout the year, but for the most part, the shortest itinerary they have is our week-long cruises. But if you're applying for cruise lines, just really, if travel is the main part of it, find a cruise line that's going to give you opportunities to travel a lot, and you're not going to spend 9 months going to the same ports in the Bahamas and Grand Turk. Okay, so with that all being said, so where do we get to go? So we go wherever the ship goes. So the last few years, basically post-pandemic, we were assigned to a ship that did fairly interesting itineraries. It was spending the summers in Alaska, and then it kind of did a mix of a bunch of other things throughout the year. This past year it did this pole-to-pole voyage, which was a 133-day cruise. Started in Fort Lauderdale, ended in Fort Lauderdale, went down to Antarctica and then up to the Arctic Circle. Next year, that same ship is doing the World Cruise, which my husband is currently scheduled to be on for 2 months of it, half of it about, joining in Sydney and then doing a bunch of Asia and stuff and then coming back. We get to go to all those places where the ship goes. That's pretty much how that works. Now, how it works when we're in port is we're technically on the passenger manifest, which means that if it's a tender port, we can go get a tender ticket, so we can get off before open tender. We should have at least somewhat of a guest first mindset. So we shouldn't be like dropping elbows to try to push people out of the way to be the first one on the tender. When we're getting off a tender, we should let the guests go to the best of our abilities. Now, I will say sometimes with the baby / toddler as she's getting older and the stroller, that can kind of shift a little, because sometimes they position you so that you're the first one off. You're the last one on and the first one off in whether it's a shuttle bus or a tender or whatever the thing is. Sometimes having that with you, having her, we end up just a little bit funky. But you're supposed to have, at least a decent guest first attitude. And then the big advantage that we find, so if you're on an itinerary, there's some places, specifically in the United States, sometimes in Europe as well, that will have, so say the all aboard time for passengers is at like 5 or 5:30. The crew all aboard time, unless it's a tender port, is usually the same as the passenger time. But there are some places where local authorities will require that to be a few hours earlier, usually for immigration purposes, making sure that people aren't absconding, staying in that country. And so that makes it so that we can have a longer day in port than we might otherwise be able to do. Otherwise, we don't really have that many rules when it comes to going ashore. Because we're on the passenger manifest, we still have to get all of the required visas for the various countries that we're going to. When you're on the crew manifest, the visa process is it's a different situation. Yeah, so we get to go all over. Sometimes it is repeating 1-week itinerary in Alaska, and sometimes it's a grand voyage taking you around the world, and either version is wonderful in their own way. On a repeating itinerary, and it's really nice to know that in this port there's this grocery store and there's this playground, and in this port there is this children's store, so if you need more like baby plates or spoons or bibs, or you need some new sleep sacks or some nice jammies or toys or whatever, teethers, whatever the thing is. Like, it's nice when you're on the repeating itineraries to be able to find and have those places kind of pre-planned. It takes a little bit of the mental energy of parenting away, makes it a little bit more like when you're home. But then, of course, the huge advantage when you're on an itinerary that's going to a whole bunch of new places is you get to go see a whole bunch of new places, which is great. And you get to see your kid explore those new places and play on playgrounds with kids from, you know, all these different countries. And yeah, so there's advantages and disadvantages to both. I'm at the point where I've gotten to see a lot of the world. I'm probably at about 80 countries. I kind of lost track. I should probably figure that out. So at this point, us going on the ship is about being together as a family. The bonus is when it's somewhere really cool. But I'm also very happy if we're doing a repeating itinerary over and over again, because there's a lot of familiarity with that. You know where you can buy diapers. Those things, like, you know, I can buy diapers here, or you could get diapers sent to the ship. Like the last contract, I bought diapers in Argentina, Brazil, Gibraltar maybe. We had a bunch, the ship stopped in, it had a port in Scotland. We were in South Queensferry, so like Edinburgh area, and we had a giant thing of diapers shipped to my in-laws that brought them to the ship for us. So those little things, those little extra things to be thinking about and figuring out go away when you're on a repeating itinerary, because you know where it is. So yeah, we get to go everywhere where the ship goes. But have a fabulous day. Have a great night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.